deep in Siberia, days from the nearest city, no roads, no maps, just frozen forests stretching to the horizon. In 2019, a team of German and Russian archaeologists took a boat, then a helicopter, into the most remote wilderness on Earth. They were looking for something that shouldn't exist. They found it on a high ridge overlooking a river bend. Deep ditches, earthen walls several meters high, wooden palisades, the remains of houses inside a fortress. Sophisticated, deliberate, expertly engineered, 8,000 years old. The radiocarbon dates came back, and the scientific world went quiet. 8,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers in the Siberian taiga built the world's oldest known fortress. Not farmers, not a settled civilization. Hunter-gatherers. People who were supposed to be too primitive, too disorganized, too busy surviving to build anything permanent. Everything we thought we knew about early humans, shattered in one river bend in Siberia. For decades, archaeologists had a rule, a timeline everyone agreed on. Humans hunted and gathered, then they farmed. Farming created surplus. Surplus created hierarchy. Hierarchy created armies. Armies needed forts, simple, linear, accepted as fact. Hunter-gatherers didn't build permanent structures. They couldn't. They were always moving, always following the herds, always just surviving. Forts required organization, planning, labor, leadership, none of which hunter-gatherers were supposed to have. The prehistoric inhabitants of Amnya caught fish from the Amnya River and hunted elk and reindeer using bone and stone-tipped spears. To preserve their surplus of fish oil and meat, they crafted elaborately decorated pottery. They had surplus. They had storage. They had something worth defending. The Siberian taiga, 8,000 years ago, was not a wasteland. It was rich. The rivers teemed with fish. The forests were full of elk and reindeer. These were not desperate, starving nomads. These were prosperous communities, with resources, and enemies who wanted those resources. The fortresses were ringed by earthen walls several meters high and topped with wooden palisades. They were built in places overlooking rivers, ideal lookout points for potential threats, allowing inhabitants to monitor their fishing and hunting grounds. This wasn't accidental, this was strategic military thinking. Stand at Amnya today and you understand immediately. The ridge overlooks a bend in the river. You can see for miles in every direction. Anyone approaching by water, you see them first. Anyone approaching by land, the ditches and walls stop them cold. Whoever built this knew exactly what they were doing. The researchers documented a network of deep ditches, banks, and palisades surrounding a cluster of houses. They collected wood and charcoal from the settlement's lowest layers, visible as bands of black organic material in the white sand. "It's like they're drawn with a ruler," the lead researcher said. Precision. 8,000 years ago, in the Siberian wilderness. And then there's the fire. Researchers analyzed the forts and concluded that at some point, many of them were consumed by flame, probably because of early battles. These walls weren't just built for show. They were used. There were attacks. There was fighting. 8,000 years ago in the Siberian taiga, there was war. When the fortified sites emerged, the region apparently experienced a dramatic increase in the local population. More people meant more competition. More competition meant conflict. More conflict meant fortifications. The same logic that drove medieval castle building, playing out 8,000 years earlier, among people with stone tools. And this is what makes Amnya so profound. To build a fortress, you need someone giving orders. You need someone who can say, dig here, build here, defend here. You need hierarchy. You need leadership. You need what archaeologists call social complexity. And according to the old timeline, none of that was supposed to exist yet. The Siberian findings, along with other examples worldwide, such as Göbekli Tepe in Anatolia, contribute to a broader reassessment of the linear development of societies from simple to complex. Göbekli Tepe showed that hunter-gatherers could build temples. Amnya shows they could build fortresses. The picture of early humans is changing, fast. Hunter-gatherer communities in various parts of the world, from the Korean peninsula to Scandinavia, developed large settlements using aquatic resources. This wasn't unique to Siberia. Everywhere humans had rich enough food sources, they settled, organized, competed, and built. The old story was always wrong. One of Amnya's most astonishing aspects is the discovery that approximately 8,000 years ago, hunter-gatherers in the Siberian taiga built intricate defense structures, said Tanja Schreiber of the Free University Berlin. This challenges traditional assumptions that monumental constructions were solely the work of agricultural communities. The paper was published in the journal Antiquity in December of 2023. The reaction in academic circles was immediate. Some embraced it, others pushed back, but nobody could argue with the radiocarbon dates. The fortress was 8,000 years old, that was a fact. And Amnya is not alone. Approximately 10 Stone Age fortified sites are known to date, with pit houses surrounded by earthen walls and wooden palisades. A network, multiple communities, all fortifying at the same time. What was the threat? Nobody knows for certain. Competition for fish, competition for hunting grounds, population pressure, climate stress. People were stressed, and stressed people fight. The 8.2 kilo-year event. Around 8,000 years ago, a massive influx of cold freshwater into the North Atlantic disrupted ocean circulation. Temperatures dropped across the northern hemisphere. Growing seasons shortened. Resources became scarcer. And in Siberia, communities that had coexisted peacefully began competing violently. This is the pattern that archaeologists are now seeing across the world. Wherever early humans faced resource stress, they organized, they competed, they built. The old idea that complexity required agriculture is dead. Stress creates complexity, necessity creates hierarchy, survival creates civilization. The people of Amnya made elaborately decorated pottery, not plain functional containers. Decorated, artistic. They had enough security, enough surplus, enough stability to care about beauty. These were not desperate survivors scratching at frozen ground. These were people with culture, with identity, with pride. And the trade networks were vast. Objects found at Amnya came from hundreds of miles away. These people were connected to a wider world. News traveled, ideas traveled, threats traveled. And when a neighboring group grew too powerful, word spread fast. The fortresses weren't built in isolation. They were built in response to a world that was changing around them. Today, Amnya sits in one of the most remote places on Earth. No tourists, no visitor center, no signs, just the ridgeline, the river, the faint traces of ditches in the frozen ground. You would walk right past it and never know what you were standing on. But 8,000 years ago, families lived here. Children grew up inside these walls. Fishermen came home through these gates. Hunters stored their meat in these houses. Leaders made decisions about when to fight and when to negotiate, how to survive in a world getting colder by the year. The story of Amnya is the story of something fundamental about human nature. We don't wait for permission to organize. We don't need farming to develop hierarchy. Give humans enough resources to protect, and they will build walls. Always everywhere. 8,000 years ago or today. The oldest instinct in human history on protect what is yours. The walls of Amnya burned. The people who built them vanished into history without a name. But the ditches are still there. The ridgeline is still there. And the lesson, carved into the frozen ground of Siberia 8,000 years ago, is still there too. Humans are builders. Humans are fighters. Humans are organizers. We always were. Long before anyone told us we were allowed to be.